Uganda's Foreign Affairs Minister says his government will consider granting asylum to Omar al-Bashir. The former Sudanese president is wanted by the International Criminal Court on charges of genocide and war crimes. The charges relate to the conflict in Sudan's Darfur region. Uganda says the former president must be given credit for the role he's played in bringing peace to South Sudan. For more on this, we can now speak to ENCA correspondent Isabel Nakiria, who's live for us out of Uganda this hour. Hi there, Isabel. So why would Uganda choose to make such a public statement given the level of calls for justice as far as al-Bashir is concerned back in his home country, Sudan?
I think the statement by the minister was well thought out. I think he calculated his words very well before he said anything, because his statement could mean Uganda could take in Bashir or not. I quote, he said that Uganda could consider taking in former President Bashir if he asked for asylum, and that is if President Museveni considered the decision and said yes. But that does not mean yes or no. But by and large, I think the two men, President Museveni and Bashir, have a long-standing relationship. President Bashir, despite him being wanted by the ICC, has come to Uganda on several occasions. The first instance was in 2014 when he came to Uganda. I think there was some talks or something. And during the function, one of the journalists asked President Museveni if he could arrest President Bashir and hand him over to the ICC. And President Museveni said in his own words, he said, "That's not the way we do things in Africa. How can I arrest somebody whom I invited?" So it was clear that these two men have a long-standing relationship. He came again, he flew in again in 2016, and this time that was for the swearing-in ceremony of President Museveni. And during the function, as soon as he walked in, some diplomats from the U.S. mission here just walked out of the ceremony. Not many people even noticed that walkout. Many of the journalists only realized the next day when the news came out in the dailies that the U.S. diplomats walked out. Then he was back again in 2017 for bilateral talks. And this time he stayed for 2 days. And President Museveni even took him to his ranch up country to see his longhorn cattle. And pictures were all over the media of the two men driving, President Museveni driving Bashir in his car over the ranch and showing him his longhorn cattle. So these two men have a long-standing relationship, and it's no surprise that such a statement could come out from a senior minister of the government, that the government could actually offer asylum to Bashir.
But Catherine, what is the Ugandans' position then on the many Sudanese who say they suffered in Darfur as a result of al-Bashir's actions, the many Sudanese who want justice at some level? Does the Ugandan government not care for that?
There have been some reactions, especially from members of parliament, who are not happy with that idea of Uganda offering asylum to President Bashir. Some people were saying, I think the government needs to rethink its position on that, considering Bashir is wanted by the ICC. But, you know, President Museveni has in the past not been a good friend of the Hague Court. He at one time said that the ICC is a bunch of useless people who do not know anything about African problems. So, you know, people are a bit skeptical about the government offering asylum to Bashir, and they are not actually happy with it. Some analysts think that Bashir is neither a refugee, an asylum seeker. So despite the fact that Ugandan doors are open to asylum seekers, he can't just walk in as an asylum seeker. He is wanted by the ICC, and Uganda being a signatory to the Rome Statute, they should actually do their duty of handing him over to the ICC. But I do not think that can happen if Bashir is ever to come here anyway.
ENCA correspondent Isabel Nakiria, thank you for your time.